Hey guys, welcome back to the Speaker's Edge podcast, the podcast designed to help you to learn from some of the world's very best speakers and communicators so you can master your message, inspire your audience every single time you speak. I'm your host for this podcast, Roddy Galbraith, and I'm thrilled you've chosen to join us today. We're talking about something very important today. We're talking about your open, no matter what you're speaking on, your story, your signature story, a keynote presentation, whatever it is, whatever your message is, the open of that presentation has to have 5 key elements, and we're going to look at those in detail in this episode. Now, before we get to that, I'll just give you the secret to effective communication. I read this a few years back. They said if you really want to have an impact on your audience, then you need 3 things. You need a powerful open, and then you need a powerful close. And please, for your audience's sake, put them as close together as you possibly can. That's good, isn't it? Oh, it's funny, but there's something important in there, because efficiency, treasuring your audience's time, every precious second of your audience's time is very important. We're going to come back to efficiency in a later episode. For now, I just want to focus on the first part of that, having a powerful open, and that's what we're going to look at in this episode. Before we get to that, though, if you haven't downloaded the companion resources, you can go to maxwellleadership.com/the Speaker's Edge and download the resources. And we'd love it if you download and save the episodes, follow, rate, and review the show as well. Okay, so let's take a look then at some of those key elements that a great open has to have to set you up to have a great speech that's really going to impact and inspire your audience. I've been helping speakers with their presentations and keynotes and signature stories for nearly 20 years now. And one question that pops up over and over and over again, so many people have this question: how do I start my speech? How do I start my presentation? What do I put in my open? And they want to have a formula, because there's so much advice out there, isn't there, about how you're supposed to start a speech. You have to start with a story. Always start with a story. No, start with a compelling statistic. No, you want a shocking statement. No, always start with a question. Make sure you don't tell them about yourself. Don't tell them how grateful you are to be there. Don't thank them for being there. All of this advice about how you're supposed to start a presentation. And the truth is, there isn't just one way to start a presentation. Some things work better than others. There isn't one thing that works for everyone all the time, but there are principles of influence that if you understand them, understand why different bits may work, then that makes an enormous difference to your presentation. So that's what we're going to look at. And the first principle that I really want you to understand is the power of a first impression. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. I'm sure you've heard that. Well, I don't know if that's 100% true 100% of the time. In fact, I know it's not. You do get a chance to make up for a bad first impression, but it's a lot more work. It's a lot more work, far better to get the first impression working in your favor. It is 100% true that a first impression can really help you. It is 100% true that a first impression can really hold you back. So a strong first impression is a great thing to go for, and it's possible if you make it important. I was interviewing Seth Godin on stage at the International Maxwell Conference in 2017, and we were talking about the power of first impression. And he said, it's true, Roddy, you never get a second chance to make a first impression, but what most people don't realize is when that first impression takes place is really important. If it's already taken place and you don't realize it's taken place, then you've really missed the trick, haven't you? So understanding where that first impression takes place is very important. And if you think about it, think about when you're speaking, when could that first impression take place? When you're in the car park, when you're checking into the hotel, when you're having lunch or breakfast, when you're waiting for the elevator, when somebody bumps into you, when something goes wrong, if you're in the event, if you're sitting at a table, if you're speaking to other speakers, if you're in the green room, walking in, walking out. There's all kinds of different opportunities for people to have that first impression form. So it's important to be on brand, if you like, all the time. And in fact, your digital brand rolls out ahead of you, doesn't it, before you even get there very often. So it's very important to think about this. But let's assume for these purposes, just because, it gives us something to focus on, let's assume that the first impression is going to happen when you walk up on stage. So you're going to be introduced in all likelihood, and then you're going to walk up on stage, or you're going to walk up in front of the audience, or you're going to appear if it's virtually, and then they're going to see you, and then you're going to open your mouth and you're going to start saying your first few sentences, your first few paragraphs. You're going to start your first few minutes of the presentation. Where in that process does the first impression take place? And how quickly does it take place? This is really important to understand because it really can lift you up or sink you down. And it happens far more quickly than most people realize. In fact, it happens very, very quickly. Very quickly. And there's lots of different research on this. Lots of different things, lots of different aspects of us. That first impression is made in seconds, a fraction of a second sometimes. Trustworthiness is an example. Apparently, our audience, or people generally, not just our audience, but people make up their mind in 1/10 of a second how trustworthy we are. 1/10 of a second. So it doesn't matter whether you start with a story or a question or whatever. Immediately that we appear, they've made up their mind how trustworthy we are. Certainly within the first few seconds, a lot of other things they've made up their mind about. There's a lot of research in there that says 5 seconds, 7 seconds. Within the first 10 seconds, certainly, the audience is making snap judgments in seconds about us. So our first job, if you think about it like that, is to really try and make a strong first impression so that we can get the first impression working for us and lifting us up rather than working against us and dragging us down and sinking us. So here's some of the things that the research says that the audience makes their mind up about in those first few seconds. Our status. They make their mind up about our status. They make their mind up about how intelligent we are, how successful we are, how much money we earn, how likely we are to be promotable. Trustworthiness, as I've already said, how dominant we are, how charismatic, how kind, how attractive we are, how likely we are to be promiscuous, how adventurous, how dateable. All of these things in a fraction of a second, the audience is making snap judgments about us. The one that really gets my attention is the trustworthiness. They're making a decision, a snap judgment about how trustworthy we are in 1/10 of a second. How, if you're anything like me, the miserable English cynic in me, the questioning, how can they possibly know that, comes to the surface when I first read that. 1/10 of a second, that's ridiculous. How can they possibly know that? How could they even test that? It's impossible. It's impossible. So I looked into the research. There's a lot of research into this. You know how they do it? It's very simple, actually. They show the test subjects, the research groups, split them into two groups. One group, they show videos and pictures of people, and they ask them to assess how trustworthy they are. And they get 1/10 of a second. They need to decide in 1/10 of a second. The other group, they show them the same pictures, the same videos, and they need to decide how trustworthy they are, but they get all the time they need. So one group needs to decide in a fraction of a second, and the other group has all the time they need. You know what the results are at the end of the test for the two different groups? They're pretty much the same. It doesn't matter whether you have 1/10 of a second or all the time you need, you still pretty much come to the same conclusion overwhelmingly. Isn't that interesting? Now, what's even more interesting about this, I think, and this is the key really why it's so important for us to understand this as speakers, they asked one more question, not just how trustworthy is the person in the picture, but how confident are you in your answer? And so they gave answers for how confident they were in their answers. And the difference between Group A and Group B with how trustworthy the people were didn't change. It was pretty much the same. But the confidence for the people who had all the time they needed to look at the picture was significantly higher than the people that just made a snap judgment. They didn't know. They didn't have the same feeling of confidence. They just made a decision. So the decision was the same, but the people who had more time to think about it were more confident in their answer. Now, you need to think about this a little bit, admittedly, for it to kind of percolate through, to really grasp the importance of this. But it must mean that the more they looked at the pictures, the more evidence they found to support the decision that they already made. It wasn't that they were looking to change their mind. They were looking for evidence to prove that they were right. They didn't change their mind. They just grew more and more confident the more they looked at the pictures. This is fascinating when you think about it, isn't it? It's huge. It's huge. We make up our mind in seconds. We make snap judgments with a fraction of the information. And then we look for evidence to confirm the decision, the opinion that's already formed. And we find it. We find it. So we become more and more confident in our answer. Isn't that interesting? So if I stood up in front of you to speak, you may reach a snap judgment very quickly that he's an idiot and he doesn't know what he's talking about, or seems like a nice guy, seems to be fairly knowledgeable about this, seems to know what he's talking about. You'll make a snap judgment about expertise, about all of those things that we went through in a fraction of a second. Now, if you decide I'm an idiot, I don't know what I'm talking about, there'll be plenty of evidence. You'll find it. If that's what you're digging for, that's what you're going to find. Yep, I was right. Yep, I was right. Yep, I was right. So you can see how a snap judgment can sink us. But if you decide that I know what I'm talking about, I'm trustworthy, I seem to be knowledgeable about this, then there's plenty of evidence for that too. Either way, there's plenty of evidence. Our marvelous mind will sniff out the evidence for the opinion that we've already formed. That's why it's so important that we can get the first impression working for us and not against us. It can really help us and lift us up, or it can hurt us. Now, it's a lot easier for us going forwards if we make a strong first impression, isn't it? Rather than trying to overcome it. It's like with sales. If you've got a customer, it's a lot easier to keep them happy than it is to lose them and go out and try and find another one. It's easier to keep them happy. Well, if you can make a strong first impression, it's easier for you to work on that. Do the work in advance so that you can make a strong first impression. And then that will carry you through, rather than not do the work, risk making a bad, unfavorable first impression, and then do everything necessary to try and overcome it. It's possible, but it's just easier to make a strong first impression. It's easy for us to do, so that's where we really want to focus. Now, before we move on to part 2 of the Open, if you're interested in developing your speaking skills, you want to be a better, more powerful speaker and communicator, why not check out the Maxwell Leadership Certified Team? We've been working on the Maxwell method of speaking since 2010. I think it's the best system of speaking available anywhere in the world. If you want to develop as a speaker, you want to study the Maxwell method of speaking, there's nowhere better to do that than the Maxwell Leadership Certified Team. There's no one better to model, frankly, than John Maxwell. There's over 50,000 coaches, getting on for 60,000 coaches worldwide in over 168 countries around the world. Speaking is only a small part of it. There's so much to the program, but just for speaking is well worth the investment. So if you want to find out a little bit about it, no obligation, you can just go to maxwellleadership.com/speak. Jump on the call with a program advisor. You can ask them questions. They'll ask you a few questions. You'll quickly see if it's a fit. If it's not a fit, it's only cost you a few minutes of your time. If it is a fit, you'll be very pleased that you made that call. All right, let's dig into number 2 then. So number 1, we need to make a strong first impression. Number 2, we need to look for a way to encourage the audience, to affirm the audience early on in your presentation. John says within the first 30 seconds, he looks for ways to encourage the audience. If you've ever seen Les Brown speak, he talks about affirming the audience right at the beginning of his presentation. Affirm the audience. And you've probably heard him say, there's something special about you. There's something special about you. There's greatness in you. And he believes it. And it's true, there is greatness in you. There is something special about you and all of us. But when someone tells us that, when someone sees that in us, it makes us feel good. We lean in to them. So looking for a way to affirm the audience, to encourage the audience. John says, put a 10 on the head of everyone you meet, including your audience. See them at their very best. See them as they could be. Why? Because we want them thinking that they are great, not that we are great, the speaker. If you're standing up to speak, you don't want them looking at you thinking, oh, you're wonderful, you're amazing. Nothing like me, you can't help me because you're different, you're made of different stuff. You don't want that. You want them thinking, oh, I'm amazing. Why? Because we like it. We like people who make us feel good about ourselves. We like people that encourage us. We like people that encourage our dreams. We don't like people that are realistic and tell us it's never going to work. They don't know that anyway. So we like people that encourage us. We like people that compliment us on our strengths. We like people that forgive us our weaknesses, that overlook our weaknesses, that don't dwell on our weaknesses because they're realistic. We like people like that, and so we lean into people like that. We want to be around people like that. We seek people out like that. We like people that make our fears normal. It's okay. Everyone feels like that. It's very, very encouraging. It's inspiring. And we want to learn from people like that. We want to be around people like that generally. I call them life-giving people. So if you're speaking in a corporate organization, what can you do to create that effect? Maybe praise the leadership for bringing you in the first place. Sometimes if you ask scary questions like what are we doing right and what are we doing wrong, how can we be better, sometimes you get scary answers. And so it's easy to avoid that. Lots of companies don't invest in the type of training that you provide. So if they brought you in to do that, then praise them. Praise them for having the courage to ask those questions. If it's a personal growth audience, for example, maybe congratulate them on being there. A lot of the people that really need to be there aren't there. So they're there, they're investing in themselves, they're lifelong learners. Congratulate them for taking that step. Because it's not about you. You want them feeling good about themselves. You don't want them feeling impressed with you. You want them feeling impressed with themselves. You don't want them thinking that you're great. You want them thinking that they're great. Why? Because you want them to come back. You want them to leave feeling good about themselves, thinking about you. You want them to come back and you want them to bring other people with them. Okay, so let's look at part 3 then. Part 3 is the hook. So in part 1, we talked about creating a strong first impression, and remember, it happens very, very quickly, certainly within the first 10 seconds very often. And it's more about how you say what you say than what you're actually saying, because they've made up their mind before they've even processed the words. So it's how you say it, it's how you move, it's what you look like while you're saying it, how you walk, how you stand, what you do with your hands, your facial expressions, your posture, how you carry yourself. All of those things. Number 1, making a strong first impression. Then number 2, we talked about encouraging them and affirming them, making them feel something, making them feel good about themselves. Now we want to talk about why they should listen to you in this presentation. That's what the hook is all about, grabbing their attention. John says when your audience looks up and sees you, they got 2 questions, frankly. Who are you and how long are you going to be? Who are you and how long are you going to be? So tell them. That should be in the open. Tell them who you are and tell them how long you're going to be. Now, they also want to know, what's in it for me? Why should I listen to you? What am I going to get out of this? So we want to make sure that they're really clear on that as well. So it might be something like, today in this session, we're going to look at the 3 things you can do, or we're going to look at the biggest mistake I see most people make. Something that lets them know exactly what you're going to cover. Obviously, you're not giving them everything that you're going to cover in the talk. You're just teasing them with a little bit so that they can be clear about what they can expect in the message. At the beginning of this talk, I told you we're going to cover the 5 key elements every open must include. So if you're interested in that, hopefully you're still with me. If it's not for you, you're like, no, I already know that, then you're going to check out. You're going to go and listen to something else. Maybe you can talk about their struggles. If you've ever struggled with low self-esteem, this talk is for you. That's exactly what we're going to look at. If you've ever asked yourself, why can't I sell? Or why can't I sell myself? Congratulations, you're in the right place. That's exactly what we're going to look at in this session, etc., etc., etc. So let them know what it is that you're going to cover. Basically, if you could answer this question, how are they going to be better off at the end? How are they going to be better off at the end of your presentation? If you can let them know, then they're much more likely to listen. Don't wait until the end for them to see how they're going to be better off. Let them know at the beginning what's coming. Then they're much more likely to give you their attention. What's the transformation that you're going to provide for them during this session? That's another way of thinking about it. What's the transformation that your talk is going to provide for them? See, they're asking themselves, whether you realize it or not, they're asking themselves, am I in the right place? Is this a good use of my time? Should I be here? Should I do something else? Shall I go and do this? Or even if they're still going to stay there, shall I think about this? Shall I think about that? Shall I work on something else while I'm sat here? Let them know that they're in the right place. Let them know that this talk is for them. And your hook is the way that you do that. So let me give you like a simple example of a hook. So we're really helping them understand what the benefits of this talk are for them. So what are we going to talk about today then? What are we going to talk about today? Well, for any organization, its people are its most valuable asset, aren't they? You've heard that before. Its people are their most valuable asset. But actually, they're only its most valuable asset if they're led well. If they're led well. If they're not led well, then they very likely are its biggest liability. Certainly for most organizations, people are the biggest line item on the P&L, aren't they? When I worked in the finance sector years ago back in London, I had a team of about 150 people and contractors, and staff cost was about £5 million a year. £5 million a year. Now, the organization I worked for had 60,000 employees worldwide. think at the size of that cost for people. So it's a big liability if they're not led well. So it's important that we do try and lead them well. It's important that we do try and get the very best out of them. And the way to do that, or at least one critical element to releasing the potential of all of those people, every person throughout the whole organization, is to develop their relationship with their line manager. Develop their relationship with their line manager. So it's one of the most powerful things we can do. It's also one of the easiest things we can do as well, if you think about it. Because the bottom line is, most organizations don't have strong managers throughout their organization. They don't spend much time on it or don't think of it as that important. Now, you might be thinking, how much difference can a relationship actually make? Well, there was a study of 25,000 employees that found that approximately 39% of the variability in corporate performance was attributed to the personal satisfaction of the employees. Now, you listen to that and you probably think to yourself, well, the happier, the more satisfied the employees are, probably the harder they're going to work. That's no great surprise. But the second part of the study showed that 69% of the variability of employee satisfaction was attributable to the quality of the employee's relationship with their line manager. Fascinating, the relationship with their line manager, that equates to about a quarter, just over a quarter of corporate performance. 27% down to the relationship each individual has with their line manager. So a strong, healthy relationship translates into bottom line profit, and developing that relationship is a well-documented, learnable set of skills called what? Called leadership. So if you want your people to willingly give more of themselves every day at work and be happier in the process, then you need to develop strong leaders at every level of the organization, not just at the top. They tend to get all of the attention anyway, don't they? But every level, middle managers. Middle managers in every organization are the gateway to most of the potential of the people in the organization. So how do we do that then? How do we do that? Well, that's what we're going to look at today in this session. So that's quite a powerful hook, isn't it? It makes you think, wow, we need to do more of that. We need to do more of that. So that's a simple way that we can grab their attention and let them know. Hopefully, we want them saying to themselves, oh, good, I'm in the right place. This is exactly what I need to hear. All right, let's look at number 4 then. Number 4 is connect with your audience. Be credible to your audience. Really, it's about positioning yourself with your audience as a confident, likable expert. Write that down. If you haven't written anything down yet, write that down. Confident, likable expert. So your hook, as we just saw, is about positioning your message with the audience. This one, number 4, is about positioning you with your audience. So maybe think about what the audience already knows about you, maybe from your introduction. If you're very organized, you have an introduction that you gave to the person that was introducing you, and that set you up and established some of your credibility, then that's great. We'll come back to introductions, incidentally, in a later episode. But if not, you may need to touch on that yourself. You may need to touch on your expertise. You may need to let them know how many years you've been working in this area, what work you've done in this space. I was working with somebody the other day and they'd spent decades in this particular industry. And I said, well, you want to try and include that in your open? And they said, well, I haven't been doing this presentation though for very long, only about 6 months. I said, but all of that expertise is relevant. If you've spent time in hundreds of dealerships all across the country for the last 20 years, that's very relevant information. If you don't tell them, they don't know. So touching on some of your expertise could be a good thing to include in this section. Maybe your origin story about how you came to this industry or how you learned whatever it is that you're speaking on, where you got your expertise. Not, for 10 minutes, but maybe just a sentence or two so they can get a feel for your expertise. That's a big part of the credibility, isn't it? Now, we talked about connecting in episode 3, so I don't want to spend too much time on connecting. We'll come back to it at various times in different ways throughout the different episodes. But to remember to connect with your audience in the open is very important, particularly important in the open. It's a part of the first impression, really, when you think about it, isn't it? Because we want that good start, conversational, smile, eye contact, be nice, be interesting, be interested in them, honor them by spending time to add value to them, treasuring every precious second of their time. It shows up and they know that you value them and they appreciate it. If you think about it from their perspective, imagine you're in the audience. You've probably got questions. You've got questions about this speaker that's come to speak. Number 1, who are you? Who are you? Number 2, how long are you going to be? Why should I listen to you? Number 3. Number 4, do I like you? Number 5, can you help me? Number 6, can I trust you? Number 7, am I in the right place? Number 8, is this a good use of my time? Or should I go and do something else? So number 1, who are you? Number 2, how long are you going to be? Number 3, why should I listen to you? What's in it for me? Number 4, do I like you? Number 5, can you help me? Number 6, can I trust you? Number 7, am I in the right place? Number 8, is this a good use of my time? If you can think about these questions from their perspective, then there's a good chance that you're going to be able to hold their attention. And I don't know about you, but I've always got something to do. No matter where I am, there's something else I'm going to be thinking about. So if I'm sat in the audience and the speaker comes up, if the hook doesn't grab me, if I haven't got my full attention, I can take out my laptop, I can start working on my next presentation, I can take out my iPad, I can browse the internet, I can catch up on some emails. Even if I'm just staring at them, I can be thinking about something else. So I've always got something else to do. I'm sure you're the same. But if they can grab my attention with the hook, then maybe I'll give them 3 minutes. I'll give them 3 minutes. So you've got my attention. Okay, let's see what you can do. And I'll focus and concentrate fully for 3 minutes. And then they need to win my attention for the next 3 minutes in that 3 minutes, and so on and so on. That's really what we're up against, isn't it? We're all very, very fickle with our attention. Our mind is jumping around all over the place unless they grab it, unless they take us on a journey that we want to go on. John says on every page of a book that he writes, he's asking himself, what is there on this page that is going to make the reader want to turn the page to find out what is on the next page? So if we can do the same when we speak, then we're much more likely to lead them by the nose through our presentation, hold their attention so that we can influence them in the way that we want to influence them, if that's right for them. All right, so that's the 4th part then. Number 5, this is really only relevant if you're speaking to sell, if you're looking to sell something. I call it the permission to pitch. The last part of your open before you move into the body of your presentation, if you are selling something, it's a good idea to let them know that at the beginning. Don't leave it till the last minute where you suddenly throw your offer at them and hope that they're going to buy it. It's a bit stressful for you, it's stressful for them. They're much more likely to be like this. They're going to be confused, they're going to have questions even if they are interested. So that's not the best approach. The best approach is to let them know that you're going to share that with them at the end. So we'll come back to this because there's quite specific language that we can use that makes it very simple. I call it the permission to pitch because you're getting their permission in advance to make your offer at the end. Then everyone can relax and you can come back to it. We don't want it to be a secret. We don't want to leave it till the end. We'll come back to this in a future episode just on selling, but for now, just know that the 5th part of your open could be your permission to pitch. All right, so we've looked at 5 key parts of a powerful open for a really powerful presentation. Number 1 was make sure you understand and work hard to create a strong first impression with your audience. Number 2, we talked about the importance of encouraging and affirming your audience, putting a 10 on their head, seeing them at their best, making them feel great about themselves. Number 3, we talked about the hook, grabbing their attention with the benefits for them, the promise for them, so that you can position your topic with your audience. And then number 4, we talked about positioning yourself, your expertise, being a confident, likable expert. Number 5 then was the permission to pitch, where you get permission from them in advance. They agree that you're going to make an offer at the end, and so it's not a surprise. 5 things that can make a big difference to your presentation. All right, that's it for this week. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to download our companion guide. You can go to maxwellleadership.com/The Speaker's Edge. Communication really is one of the most important skills that you can develop, and it is a learnable skill. So keep learning, keep going, keep experimenting, and you'll learn to master your message and inspire your audience every single time you speak. Thanks for listening today. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Lots of love. Bye-bye. God bless.